Let's bring back Dr. Judy Jasser. What do you make of those comments, Dr. Jasser? Mahmoud Abbas saying they are not resorting to violence or terrorism.
Well, he takes the world for fools, and ultimately his constituency are the corrupt OIC nations that he could do anything, and they will continue to stand by his side as the lead terrorists that they are, whether it's Iran or any other of the OIC nations that remain silent. And he's corrupt. I mean, he's completely irrational. It is irrational to, on the one hand, applaud martyrs in the same speech that he calls martyrs, and those are part of the resistance. And he talks about the march of return in Israel and Gaza. What is the return? Return means the obliteration of Israel. Return, to anyone who's rational, was folks who were violently holding up guns and knives and other things. That was not a nonviolent march, and yet he's talking about nonviolence out of both sides of his mouth. So ultimately, if they want respect on the world stage, then he needs to be rational and demonstrate that he is contrite and willing to operate in a peaceful manner, rather than, on the one hand, continuing to reward families from just 2 weeks ago of those who assassinated Ari Fuld on September 16th, and yet not pay any price for that and demonstrate any type of reform against those militancies.
Yeah, it's absurd to hear him, as you say, on the one hand, praise the martyrs and then claim that the Palestinians do not resort to violence and terrorism. And one of the reasons that the U.S. cut aid to the Palestinians is because those funds were being used for the so-called pay-for-slay program for financially rewarding terrorists. The U.S. also cut aid to the United Nations Palestinian Refugee Agency for several things, like its unique definition of a refugee, allowing refugee status to pass from one generation to the next. Many reasons behind that cut, but do you think, given the destabilizing effect that it could have on Gaza, that it was the right move by the U.S.?
I have to tell you, it's like treating cancer. First, the patient gets a lot sicker before they get better. And just like in Iran, the end of the billions of sanctions, which ultimately the people cheered, even though they may see a little tighter economy, they cheered because the billions were fueling their tyranny, was fueling the government that was terrorizing the entire region, including Syria. Similarly, the cutting off of funds to Abbas and his corrupt regime will ultimately bring about its quicker death rather than its continued life support from the world that is turning a blind eye to the sponsorship of terror. And I think the greater sanctions against the Palestinian leadership will awaken its people, much as we've seen in Iran and elsewhere with sanctions, awaken its people so that it can finally begin to put its corrupt leadership into the place it should be, which is the dustbin of history, and then finally get them respect on the world stage.
Let's hope so. Appreciate your analysis. As always, Dr. Judy Jasser, the president of the American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Thank you.